Hello, I'm Euphonia and welcome to my MAGDK build for the Firesong patch. Firesong for MAGDK does not change anything from Lost Steps, so this build will work just fine in the current Lost Steps patch, and Firesong, at least for MAGDK, is not really going to be the focus of changes in the Week 3 and Week 4 notes. It is not what is having problems on PTS, so this should not change onto the live version of Firesong either. That being said, to start it off, our race is Breton. Breton is by far the best MAGDK race. For a specific build composition, you can go on MAGDK. A different race becomes viable, but overall, nothing else really compares to Breton. I have 19 points in health to get up to 30k HP, and the rest in magic. I'm a stage 3 vampire. My food is the Orzorga smoked bear haunch, and my boon is the warrior Mundus stone. The sets I'm running, it's very typical MAGDK stuff. I have Burning Spellweave Mace's front bar, and on 3 body pieces, I have Rallying Cry back bar, I have Bloodspawn, 1 piece trainee, and then 1 Sea Serpent's Coil. There are 3 mythics that are usable on this build. Sea Serpent's Coil is the highest damage. Markin is probably best of just like middle of everything. If you're dueling, I would use Sea Serpent, and if you're in a tight-knit small scale, Sea Serpent will give you the most damage. It's really strong. Markin gives you a bit more tankiness, and it gives you more weapon and spell damage, just permanent uptime. And it does not decrease movement speed, so this is a really good option. Also, if you don't have High Isle, Markin is probably your better option. And then if you're playing this solo without anyone in your group, Pale Order is the best mythic you can run, because if you go into a group of people and put talons on everyone, you will be ticking up like several thousand healing per second from Pale Order. It is really, really, really strong on MAGDK. So for this setup, my weights is I have 2 heavy, 1 medium, 4 light. I have a reinforced chest, 2 impen, and 4 divines. You can also go 4 sturdy. It allows you to block a lot more damage, but I like 4 divines with Rallying Cry and Warrior Mundus for just hitting really hard. Our back bar is a Rallying Cry Ice Staff. You can also go Sword and Board. I have a preference for Ice Staff because you get a big weapon trait and a big weapon enchant instead of having an armor enchant and an armor trait on your back bar in a small weapon trait and small weapon enchant. If you are running an Ice Staff, make sure not to have the Trifocus passive, because this makes blocking with an Ice Staff cost magic instead of stamina, which you do not want. You can go powered, defending, or precise on this. Precise will allow you to proc Rallying Cry more consistently, and it will also give you more consistent crit coags, which will basically just a full health heal if you hit a crit coag. Defending will mean you take the least damage, and powered is the most raw healing. I personally like powered. For your front bar weapons, I have 2 maces. You can also go you can go 1 mace, 1 sword. I find 2 maces to be the best for like the neutral game, because you're not going to have corrosive up 100% of the time. So, which is why some people go swords, because in corrosive the pen doesn't matter, but I find having 2 maces to be the best in general. The front bar is, the main hand is a Nirnhond trait with a shock enchant, and the offhand is a charge trait with a absorb stam enchant. These enchants and traits are very important being set up like this, because the way your weapon and spell damage is calculated is based primarily off of the main hand, and having Nirnhond will increase that further. This is the most getting the most out of having dual wield equipped. And charged will allow you to apply a lot more status effects. I know some people go sharpened or precise. Charged is definitely the best thing you can have on MAGDK. We have shock glyph, because this is the we already have fire damage, we already have poison damage. It's the next best thing for doing a burst glyph, and it also applies the concussed status effect. And the absorb stamina glyph with charged has a really, really high chance to apply sundered, which is minor breach, which a lot of people do not know. Minor breach is 3k pen. It is great. Having charged with absorb stam offhand is a massive game changer. Our jewelry is full bloodthirsty, full reduced mag cost. Between Breton and full reduced mag cost, just or Zorga is enough to sustain. For body, it's full prismatic glyphs. This is the most stat dense you can get. Basically any build you want full prismatic glyphs, and then you fine-tune your stats using attributes. Other sets I would go. I tried out the new Forest Wraith set. This looked like it was going to be really, really great for MAGDK if you build crit. It is a bit underwhelming. I think they need to increase the crit chance bonus of this by a pretty considerable margin for it to be good in PvP, because building crit damage over crit rate will always give you more burst and more kill potential. So just stacking crit rate doesn't give the MAGDK the ability to hit that much harder, and burning spell weave actually hits harder than using Forest Wraith. I did test out the new Gorman set. This is while you have a food buff active, you get 13% crit damage and crit healing. This is pretty great. Bear Haunch does proc this. You get a lot of crit damage. But personally, I think if you're going to go a crit build, the best thing you can run is Order's Wrath front bar. If you have Order's Wrath, if you want to go a crit build, switch this to Warrior. Switch Warrior to Shadowstone and go Khajiit instead of Breton. This is what I was talking about another race that is viable. Also, switch these maces to be both axes, go Nirnhoned and Precise if you go a crit build. I know I said charged is great, but you want to squeeze out as much crit rate as possible. As for armor traits, if you go Order's Wrath, you can switch up your armor weights. I would go 3 medium, 2 light, 2 heavy. If you go crafted, make sure it's the shoulder, legs, and feet that are medium, and the sash and hands that are light. Also, if you go a crit build, don't go sturdy, just go divines. You want to squeeze out as much damage out of your crits as possible. As for changing this build to work in a organized group, instead of Burning Spellweave, if you don't want to run Burning Spellweave, even though I think it is the best option, if you are in a 4v4 extended fight, a Zerblight on MAGDK between Breath and Talons, you will be proccing a Zerblight. It is really, really strong in an organized group. Solo, don't run it. It's only going to help in an extended fight against another organized group. Now onto skills. I have Shattering Rocks. Shattering Rocks heals you. It's your stun. It can't be blocked or dodged. On a Flame Lash build, you can also go the other morph, Fossilize, which makes it immobilize immediately after the stun, but it does not heal. And now you may be thinking, why would you go Fossilize if you already have an immobilize from this? There is a bug that if you talons and they dodge the talons and you fossilize them mid-dodge, it immobilizes them again, and you can reproc Flame Lash almost immediately if you didn't get the proc while they were immobilized by talons. So it's really strong. I personally like the healing from Shattering Rocks. It's pretty good for getting defensive on your front bar, because if you're pretty low, there's someone attacking you, you have unblockable stun, it heals you up, they're stunned, and it gives you time to switch back bar and heal up yourself, and the tiny little heal from it, which isn't actually that tiny, it is similar, like 2k less than my Coag. So it'll heal you up probably like 20% of your health if it crits, which is very, very sizable and very helpful. Next, we have Talons. Talons is great. When they nerfed dots, Talons was not touched at all. It hits really, really, really hard. It's an AoE spammable while you're in Corrosive. You can just spam Talons into a group, and you will melt them all. And it also immobilizes, which allows you to proc Lash. We have Noxious Breath instead of Engulfing Flames, because Noxious Breath will give us Major Breach, and the Engulfing Flames increased damage with Flame was pretty sizably nerfed. Also, Noxious Breath is poison damage, which will proc the Poison status effect, which does 50% more damage because of the combustion passive, and will restore stamina every time it procs, once every 3 seconds. So it's pretty good for stam sustain, and it will also give you a lot more damage than Engulfing Flames because it gives Major Breach. I am using Lash. I used to run Lash, then I switched to Molten because the change to Molten making it stack up, and I got really used to a Molten Whip playstyle. I do think Flame Lash is better after the it ends up being a 20% damage nerf to Molten Whip that they did. I do think Flame Lash is now better. It's also a lot more pressure because you can just spam it on someone. And if there's not a lot of people on you, you can completely out-heal someone's damage, even if they're attacking you back by just spamming Flame Lash. It's really crazy. Flames of Oblivion, this gives Major Prophecy and Savagery for slotting it. It is also one of the top damage dealers in every time I test a MAGDK. It is really, really great. You can spam it. It attacks 3 random people. It's just a really, really good skill. If you do want to go a Molten Whip build, you can put Molten Whip here, and Flame Lash is your spammable on this build. On a Molten Whip build, Flames of Oblivion is your spammable. You use this until you get 3 stacks of Molten Whip, and then you Molten Whip. On a Molten Whip build, I would also go Deep Breath instead of Talons, because if you have 3 stacks of Molten Whip, you Breath, and then you Fossilize or Leap into Molten Whip times 3, and that is like a guaranteed one-shot to anyone that isn't a really good person, a really good player in like a good solo build. Especially if you're building a crit build. That will one-shot people. It's really, really great. I was debating using that this patch. I just found this pressure to be a little bit better. My front bar ult is Ferocious Leap. I personally think this is the best front bar ult you can run solo, and even in a group, I like this. This, even though Take Flight does a considerable amount more damage, it really isn't that much because this is flame damage and everyone in Cyrodiil is a vamp, so you get bonus flame damage, so it's not really that far behind. Plus, it is a 30k damage shield. It just absorbs 30k, which in Cyrodiil is 15k, but it's 15k less damage taken with Battle Roar restoring your health. So if you're low health, there's a bunch of people on you, you can pop Leap, stun them all, heal up a bunch because of Battle Roar, and you get a damage shield on top of that. It's really great. In a group, I would go shifting standard front bar, because the shifting standard synergy, if you have a harmony crow in your group, will nuke people. It is really, really strong. It also applies major defile to everyone in the area, and you can move it around. It's really good. My back bar skills, I have volatile armor. I still prefer this over the other morph even after the other morph got buffed, because if there's like Nightblades around you in stealth, instead of having to spam breath to try to get them, you can pop volatile armor on back bar, and everyone in this rather large area will get revealed. Coag Blood is our burst heal. It's MAGDK bread and butter for healing. It heals really, really, really hard. And it also has like an anti-execute, I guess, built in, because if you're at low health, it heals up to 50% more. Then I have Resolving Vigor. I used to run a Resto Staff back bar with Radiating Regen in a group, Rapid Regen solo, but Vigor's just better than it now, which is why I'm running an Ice Staff. I have Elusive Mist. Mistform is cracked. You can also go Race Against Time. If you choose to play the crit build, do go Race Against Time, because otherwise you're losing out on 10% crit damage. For last skill on back bar, I have Igneous Weapons. You no longer need the other morph because it's it doesn't empower, does nothing in PvP anymore. So Igneous Weapons, you get Major Brutality and Sorcery for 72 seconds. You do not need to reapply this that often. It's really great for just popping it, and then you can forget it for like an entire fight. Backbar alt is Corrosive, obviously. It's really, really strong, edging on Overpowered. It is, you pop it, you barely take any damage, and all your direct damage goes through people's resistances. Basically, if you look at your stat sheet while it's active, your pen goes up to like 100+ K. So you just get infinite pen, go through all of their resistances. That is my skill setup. A crit build with Lash is really strong. A crit build with Molten Whip is really strong, especially if you go Deep Breath. Onto champion points. I have Ironclad, Focused Mending, Deadly Aim, Master at Arms. You can also go Exploiter instead of Deadly Aim, or Master at Arms, one of those. I'm not really sure which one like decided yet to replace. I just don't like how off balance is a cooldown, so it's not always active, but while you're going offensive, like in Corrosive, you're spamming Lash on someone that's off balance. This will allow you to kill them a pretty decent speed quicker. For red CP, I have Survival Instincts, Pain's Refuge, Sustained by Suffering, and Relentlessness. You can also replace Relentlessness with Celerity. I would recommend doing this on a Mistform build. It allows you to kite a lot quicker, and because you're in Mistform, the Major Protection is not as important, because you just have mitigation from Mistform. On a build using Race Against Time, you don't have the ability to just pop a button, get 75% mitigation, so if you get stunned, it will be important to have the 10% less damage taken. Also, with Race Against Time, you have Major Expedition, so you can sprint really fast. Yeah, I don't think Celerity is worth it if you have Race Against Time. Relentlessness is really strong. Go this with Race Against Time. Celerity with Mistform, basically. Okay, that's the build. To sum it up, either Burning Spellweave, Azure Blight, or Order's Wrath front bar. Azure Blight only in a very, very organized group. Also, in an organized group, you probably won't need Rallying Cry. You can go things like Daedric Trickery Backbar or Olorim if no one else has that. Olorim is good on MAGDK because, let's say in an organized group, you have a Warden. You can go Cinderstorm, place this down, and because you have a Warden, they're giving you Major Resolve. So you can throw this down wherever you want. It's a really strong heal over time because this also wasn't nerfed in the heal over time changes. And also proc Olorim for your group. Okay, that's basically the build. I'm not going to show a Superstar screenshot because I have sort of messed stuff up and changed stuff. But thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Also, I would appreciate if you hit the like button and commented down below. If you have any questions about the build, I will be glad to answer them. And if you have any criticisms about the build, I would also like to hear them. Thank you for watching. Until the next one, see you.